Let's start with Obama and Trump. And again, in the historical context, two United States presidents going at it like schoolboys fighting over the last piece of fudge. Here is President Trump today in the Oval Office talking about Barack Obama. It says he was the ringleader along with Hillary Clinton. This would be number one of an attempt to basically put Donald Trump in prison for colluding with Russia. Number one, please.
Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, and so was Sleepy Joe Biden, and so were the rest of them. Comey, Clapper, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. And then because I knew I won that election by a lot, I did it a third time, and I won in a landslide. Every swing state won the popular vote. But I won that all the same way in 2020. And look at the damage that was caused.
All right, one more. He talked about it at length. Here's number three, same topic.
But what we found is even more so. Now, we found absolute, this isn't like evidence, this is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious, that Obama was trying to lead a coup, and it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people, but Obama headed it up. And, I get a kick when I hear everyone talks about people I never even heard of. It was this one. No. It was Obama. He headed it up. And it says so right in the papers. Got everything. This is the biggest scandal in the history of our country. And it really goes on to even the auto pen, because it all relates to the same thing. It all started the same sick minds. You have an auto pen, which is a tremendous, well, we don't have a president. We have an auto pen that signs everything. I'll bet you sign everything. You don't have auto pens. Everybody. Who doesn't sign? You're the president of a country. But it's all that whole thing leading right up to the end of it is the auto pen. And the auto pen was used by people, and Biden knew nothing about it. They were signing documents that he knew nothing about. As an example,
Neil, impressions to the contrary on social media. I work really hard not to be a nerd to the things that comes out of his mouth. So when he says biggest scandal in American history, I judge it on that basis. One more thing, and then I'm going to ask you your thoughts on this, and I'll start with some history. This is Barack Obama, who his normal attitude when Donald Trump accuses him of stuff, his normal attitude is this. He doesn't care. But today, he did care enough to have his spokesperson put out this statement, number 5. They put it also on X. Here's what President Obama's office said, not President Obama, but his office. Out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. All right. So, Neil, let's start with history. Is there any antecedent for this, any precedent for this in American history, a current president and a former president going at each other in such personal and hyperbolic terms?
You need to go back to the 19th century, I think. Part of our problem when we think about American politics is that we're very influenced by the relatively recent past. And if you think back through politics in our lifetimes, there were certain rules, I think of them as the Ivy League rules, which constrained behavior by presidents in and out of office. But in many ways, President Trump has taken American politics back to the 19th century, not only ideologically, tariffs, exclusion on immigration, but also stylistically. And so this is much more the kind of politics that Americans were accustomed to in the 19th century. When Charles Dickens came to this country, the thing that most shocked him was the incredibly vituperative character of politics, which was much nastier than English politics to which he was accustomed. Americans got more gentlemanly, especially in the politics after World War II. And so this seems shocking to us. But in fact, presidents and former presidents were always taking chunks and lumps out of one another back in the 19th century. Of course, American political nastiness even produced a civil war back then. So that's how to think about this. Second historical bit of context, the biggest scandal in American political life in the last 100 years was certainly Watergate. And so whenever anybody tries to argue that this is the biggest scandal, that they've set themselves a very high bar, because Watergate ultimately brought President Nixon down. And I'm not seeing anything yet that's going to lead to anything as ignominious as Richard Nixon's downfall.
Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.